The thing about knowledge is if you don't embrace innovation and you have a fixed mindset that I have an idea and that idea must work, now you get resilience working against you.
What's up, Sanara Creatives? Welcome to Sanara Talks, your go-to resource for real, practical conversations that help creatives grow. Let's go! Here, we break down the topics, insights, and lived experiences that shape your creative journey. If you're in the creative economy, this space is for you. I'll be your host, Van. Welcome to Sanara Talks. Sanara is a program that skills creatives on different skill sets, soft skills and technical skills. Well, we want creatives to be able to do sana and biashara at the same time, to put some money in their pockets, because it's very important, and also to dignify them. On this podcast, we'll be talking about different topics on identity, mindset, safeguarding, very many. But today, here with me, I would love to introduce Mr. Njiru.
Thank you.
Nyaga, aka Black Ostrich,
Yes.
aka Intrekana, Lokirion Ekales.
Kabisa.
Yes. He's been a coach, someone I look up to. For the last 10 years, he's guided teams. You know, if you feel like you don't know how to go about something, he'd be the best person to seek guidance from.
Thank you.
And let him introduce himself.
Okay. Thank you so much. And I'm happy to be here in Sanara Talks. It's been a moment we've always been waiting for, to see how do we spread more knowledge through the digital platforms. So with you today is Njiru Nyaga, and in the industry I'm known as the Black Ostrich. I'm an emotional intelligence coach, but for the last 15 years, I've majorly trained on leadership, emotional intelligence, helping individuals, creatives, and everyone in the bracket of human being to understand themselves, understand how their environment is affected by their emotions and how they present themselves. And I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for coming and joining us. We'll dive right in.
Okay.
And sensitivity is something that us creatives feel a lot for us to put at art. And for the time I've known you, you are a sensitive person, which is very beautiful. So my question would be, how can sensitivity be both something that uplifts you or something that will make you lose opportunities like that?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's amazing. Wow. As a coach, I'll tell you something. There's self-victory, which we call private victory. And there's something we call public victory. Now, sensitivity really comes out in private victory. You know, how do you manage yourself in a way that you understand and recognize the emotions you're going through, how they're affecting your emotions, and how they're affecting your output, your outlook. Remember, as artists, one of the intelligence we need to have is 55% of your communication is through your body language. So that awareness of just understanding that my emotions can be seen, is something every artist should think about. Because if you win your private victory, where you're in charge of your emotions and where you feel genuinely, as a coach, I'll let you know, feeling is the first step. Recognizing how you're feeling is the second step, but then regulating how you're feeling is where now the public victory comes in. Because how do you regulate? Because we live in a world that attacks every small weakness. And sometimes the weakness is not one that exists, is one that they perceive. Yeah. So I would say win your private victory, understand that you're human, you feel, you're sensitive. Number two, understand your triggers, and understanding your triggers may mean going deeper into your traumas.
That is very true.
Yeah. Yes. So every human being has been shaped by their environment. Unfortunately, not only the good environment has shaped us, also the bad things that we've experienced in the world have shaped who we are, how we feel, and also how we address people. I love saying that, in Africa, we are very blessed to have good schools,
Yes.
but also the same schools have put in beautiful mindsets in us, but also the delivery of education in Africa sometimes creates trauma moments, where students don't feel empowered, and students feel, if you make a small mistake, you're gone, so that trauma has really affected even the creatives, who have really tried to express themselves in a very static education system, and through that process, it has created some traumas, and those traumas make them really sensitive to how does the world perceive me. Yeah. So for me, I think understanding how you feel is really important. But then again, let's talk about how we manage our emotions, because the world doesn't care, Yeah, really, the world doesn't care. What they want is, what are you bringing on the table? How are you adding value to my process? A corporate company just doesn't want to spend money on creatives. They really want the creatives to present a sustainable solution to some things that they are going through. And as we've been doing master classes, some things have been coming out, like how do we help organizations and private companies tell their story better? Creatives are perfect at that. Whether it's storytelling, whether it's creating music to rally people towards the brand, whether it's printing and making accessories, creatives are usually the answer to branding and marketing, in my opinion. And I think we should take advantage of that.
Yeah. And also one thing is learn how to talk in those spaces.
Yeah.
But you have to know how to regulate your emotions, because it's not everywhere you'll go. It's not all tables you'll go, you'll be listened to.
Yes.
So you cannot go there and be angry.
Yeah.
Or feel entitled.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So just to add, there's a way sensitivity can affect you, but also there is a way sensitivity in another way can really help you in positioning. I'll tell you, vulnerability when it comes to branding yourself, curated vulnerability, sometimes really, goes a long way. I've seen artists who tell their story of whether their struggles or their blessings, and the outcome is the crowd, the fans really relate to them as humans. So how do we do it intentionally, knowing that people need to relate with me as human, but also, people need to relate with me as a brand as well. So that's where the balance, and that's where coaches come in.
If sensitivity cuts both ways, it is often resilience that keeps that fire burning.
Yeah.
As a Gen Z, I have seen a lot of, what is resilience? I deserve soft life.
Yes.
But what can you tell us about resilience, and why does it keep the fire burning in art, in corporate, as a coach?
Yeah.
How has resilience shaped you?
Personally, I'll tell you, I've not really had a choice. Having lived a life of multiple skills, trying out to survive as an artist in different ways, as a trainer in different ways. I tell my stories through training, I curate games and activities and visuals just to help people connect with content, So resilience, for me, I don't feel, if you're really focused on your vision and mission, resilience becomes a tool, yeah? But then what's resilience? Resilience, for me, is consistency.
Yes.
It's you understanding as a Gen Z, you're not really different from a millennial. Like, millennials were young as well, and they also wanted soft life until life made them discover, okay, soft life is not coming, And, the bigger question would be, what skills do you need? Gen Zs are naturally talented. And I'll tell you, you guys have gone through the information age. like you've had information on your fingertips. You had TVs that are digital in your table rooms. You knew how to use remotes and stuff. You knew how to Google stuff with your parents' phones. Yeah. So you have so much knowledge with you. But the question now is, how do we creatively summarize what we know and make it work to solve problems in the society?
Stay at the information part.
Yes.
We have to use the information.
Yes.
To help us move forward.
Exactly. So yes, you're talented, but then what are your skills? Because sometimes you understand skills can be easily sold because they solve problems. And that's where talent becomes now a sustainability measure, but resilience for me, what sustains resilience is understanding some tools that you need in life. For example, public speaking, and not at the point of how do I learn public speaking, but how do I become good at public speaking? And public speaking, a lot of it is private victory. Yeah. How do you feel about yourself?
That is very true. Yeah. Yeah.
How are you even confident about your names? Yeah. Can you confidently say I'm Black Ostrich and explain why you're so proud of that name? So be confident in yourself. Reach out to what affects how you feel in front of people or when you're positioning yourself for an opportunity, for example. And most of that is really personal. And that's where we coach you through a process of understanding your emotions. And also we add a couple of tools that can help you regulate your emotions, quickly understand how am I feeling, and then quickly come up with a measure of how do I sustain that feeling, but also manage it in a way that it doesn't affect my brand and my image. Yeah.
That is true. Just a follow-up.
Sure.
When emotional intelligence and resilience are put together, there are points where you're approaching brands or you're working with a brand and sometimes you're resilient, but it's not working for you. Does that mean you're too quick to end it or you're emotionally intelligent?
Yeah. So the thing about knowledge is it supports resilience. But the thing about knowledge is if you don't embrace innovation and you have a fixed mindset that I have an idea and that idea must work, now you get resilience working against you because you're still putting in energy, but on the wrong thing, right? So what we are trying to teach here is a growth mindset. And after the growth mindset, we are also trying to teach on innovation mindset. How do I creatively innovate continuously? Not that I'm good at this, but I'm good at this, but open to, planning more, improving more. So this helps most creatives because, for example, if you are a band and you're really trying to position yourself, let's say for a Rotary event, you've done your research, Rotary clubs have these values, you've done your research on what music are they likely, what demographic, what age group are they targeting, but then sometimes, you have to think of how do I position myself in a way that as a band, I solve a problem that Rotary Club has. Yeah. So in a meeting where you're meeting the Rotary Club directors, you might be asked questions like, do you play Rumba? And quickly you might think of what you do best. And you might be like, no, we do Afro and you'll be selling what you're good at. But the client is really helping you align with what they want. Yeah. So you might be resilient and you might push your agenda. But the question is, are you giving and providing a solution to the person with the money? Yeah. So that's what I would say. Be resilient, but be innovative. Like whenever a challenge comes your way, see it as an opportunity. Ask yourself, okay, is this information that can help me even deliver better quality Yeah.
So you're saying we use information, but also be very intentional to create what the client wants.
Yes. And we're going to talk about it a little bit because later we'll talk about self-discipline, and that's where resilience comes in. And I feel, we need to talk about what do we do to grow ourselves individually, but also separately come up with a different plan on what do we do to grow ourselves publicly. Those two things are very different, and self-awareness is all about separating issues and understanding that stress sometimes doesn't come from out there. Sometimes it comes from in here. Yeah.
Sanaa means sanaa na biashara. Yeah. And as an artist, you might nail the sanaa part, but hapo kwa biashara kidogo can prove a bit tricky. Yeah. In terms of emotional intelligence. What emotional intelligence skills would you tell creatives is a must-have or must work on?
My go-to would be empathy. Yeah, empathy. And if you think about empathy in a simple way, how do you put yourself into the other person's shoes? Yeah. So this means, how do I believe in myself so much that I'm content, and now I'm ready to give to the world what I'm good at. But then that's the first scene. The second scene is, do I understand what they need? And empathy here is, this is where empathy comes from. Believe in yourself. So don't focus on pushing your agenda of, I'm good at this, I've done these gigs, I've worked with Safaricom, you're already in the room, meaning they did their due diligence, and they gave you a chance to be in the room. And sometimes while you're in the room, you don't recognize that you've already won halfway.
It's very true.
You keep pushing the agenda of previous gigs you've done and selling other brands that you've worked with instead of selling yourself as a brand. Yeah. So empathy for me is really important, because we even teach on empathic listening, because it's a skill. It's a very specific skill of how do you do it? It's not just you need to be empathic, but how do you actually implement empathic listening? Some of the simple skills that we teach is an empathic listener always uses the words used by the person they're talking to, to make them feel heard and understood. Yeah. So anytime you position yourself in business, use the words your clients or your potential clients really use. For example, make sure you've understood their taglines, their rallying calls. Those are things you shouldn't leave on your presentation, If possible, if you're if you compose music and you're doing a presentation, don't go into that room without a sentence or two or a line or two that they can use as a rallying call. So most of the time you think of what you've done and what you're good at, but we need to think more empathically of what do they need, what have they done, how can I support them to continue in their journey. So in business rooms, let's avoid sounding like we are coming to save you guys, and let's sound like, what so far you guys have been good. How can we plug into your storytelling? Or how can we plug into your visuals? And how can we plug into your visibility as a brand? Yeah. But with an attitude of wanting to support what has been there, not coming in with totally new ideas. You've not done your research on how they did their marketing campaign last year, and you're just coming up with a new idea. They kind of feel you don't care about them. You care about money. Yeah.
These gaps mostly show up when, as you said, when you're in front of a boardroom. How have you been able to move away from these obstacles as an emotionally intelligent coach? Because, we all start from somewhere. How did you move from the obstacles and learn from them?
I've learned that time is a resource. Sometimes we want to solve things so quickly, so urgently. We forget that we are actually in that moment to go through that process. The question here is a mindset. What mindset do you embrace? The mindset I have embraced is that opportunities are there. So when challenges come, I look at opportunities through challenges. When good times come, I look for opportunities through good times. Yeah. So that mindset has really helped me go through a lot of hard moments. Being a coach, that means I've worked as a consultant almost all my life. That means I've not been employed with a salary. So, disasters like COVID really put me off my game. You couldn't meet people, you couldn't talk to people. We tried the digital method, but it couldn't go through. It wasn't as effective. I had to think, what can I do with my hands? There's so much in my head, and that's why I feel the pressure. But what else can I do with my hands beyond what I know in my mind? And I found myself farming, I found myself, training other farmers on different technologies. So I used my talent in a different space, but it's because I had a mindset of looking for opportunities, not focusing on what's happening to me.
What you're trying to say is focusing on the negatives most of the time will bring an imbalance because you won't see the opportunities.
Yes, I'm trying to not dilute the negatives. Yes. Because you see, that's where opportunities come from as well. Because sometimes things don't happen to you. Yes. Things happen around you. And then those things that happen around you have negative impact on you. So really, it's not about you. Yeah. It's just things that are happening around you. Yeah. So how do we also learn to use pain as a motivator or as fuel? How do we learn to use stress and pressure and anxiety as fuel? It all comes from understanding your emotions and also understanding how can I push myself a little bit harder from how I feel to how I should feel. Yeah.
Resilience.
Yeah. Again, resilience and agility. There's so many words we can use here. Yeah. I'm feeling like this. I'm depressed. Definitely. Sina do, sina mboka, sijui hiyo do ingine itakam, landlord ndio huyo, But yeah, these things are happening around me. They are not happening to me. So still, I'll wear my best outfit, walk out, say to the landlord, mwambie maze, Buddha, najua nimekosea, lakini acha tuendelee. Na uniombee maze, like, how do you treat the world like it's with you, it's not against you? If you believe in God, for example, you can feel him every time you wake up. So you really don't need evidence of maze God ako na wewe. The moment unafungua unajua ako na wewe. So the next thing kujiuliza ni ananituma wapi leo? Where am I supposed to go? Who should I talk to?
What is my purpose today?
What is my purpose? And the people I talked to yesterday, what were the outcomes? And what can I learn from yesterday's experience? Today's experience should find you a better person.
We often talk about self-awareness. And most of us wonder what is this self-awareness? Could you describe how self-awareness pushes us to release the most authentic art as creatives?
Sometimes it sounds like a very big word, yeah. But it's just awareness, it's understanding, who am I? Where did I come from? What product am I made of? We use a very simple analogy in training where we say, if you squeeze an orange, what do you get?
Orange juice.
Yeah. If you squeeze a pineapple, what do you get?
Pineapple juice.
Pineapple juice. So if we squeeze you, what do we get? Yeah. So it's the same thing. Yeah. So self-awareness is understanding yourself. So that when you're squeezed, you're not shocked by the juice that is coming out. Yeah, because this is me. This is me. This is who I am. Clarity is important for every artist. I would like to tell you that, because artists express through art in different forms. Sometimes we struggle to make people appreciate what we express and the art. But we need to also be aware that they don't recognize this as art, So how do we go even a mile to show them the importance of this art, to relate the art with their mind, to relate the art with their stress? We've done that before as a country, and I can tell you, we've used puppeteers like XYZ, and everyone, you're tuning in, and you're like, why do I love this show so much? And at the end of the show, you're like, hey, I laughed, and you're there because you want a good time. Let's also understand as artists, what emotional problems are we solving in the human race, or in the world? What emotional problems are we solving, so that we align ourselves with them? There's a lot of mental health issues right now, and I believe it's an opportunity for creatives, whether it's to teach people how to bead, whether it's what we're experiencing in restaurants right now, where a parent and a child are seated and just painting, art therapy.
There's also music therapy.
There's music therapy. There's so much, I'm finding, parents are taking even their kids to learn pottery.
Yes. Or woodwork.
Yeah, woodwork.
Yeah.
So how do we, and as artists, this is what we are good at naturally. This is our talent. But then now the question is, how do we package ourselves for this parent who has the money that I need to see me as a safe environment for the kid and her and him, to come, sit down, listen to me, and share my perspective.
So you have to be very self-aware as a creative to be able to do that.
Yes, you have to be self-aware. And in self-awareness, we go deeper in talking about your personality, and if you think about personalities, where do they come from? They come from your environment. Your personality is shaped by your environment. And that's why earlier I was talking about the school system, because sometimes we don't recognize that backbenchers tunafikiria gasini ma introvert but ikikuja niko kelele si ma extrovert. So kama ulikuwa backbencher shule for a very long time, hiyo pia iko na impact. Pia iko na impact.
So the time is fear of being seen.
Exactly. And that's why we would shout. And then when the teacher would ask, please, who said it? Kuna mtu, Nimbogi. Nimbogi ilisema, sindio? So self-awareness is understanding, I'm part of a bigger puzzle, but I am myself. And I think one of the things that I'm finding in coaching is I'm not finding a shortage of people who don't know themselves. I'm finding a shortage of people who don't accept themselves. You want to be something, but you don't want to start with who I am.
And why you're doing what you're doing.
Why was I born in the family I was born in? Why did I have to go to a polytechnic and not a university? Yeah, I know it's about money and stuff. Everyone knows the reason. But then, do you think it happened to you, or do you think it happened around you? That's the same question. 90% is how you respond and how you choose to respond. And sometimes responding, is facilitated by the people you've surrounded yourself with, or the resources you've surrounded yourself with. So I would love for every creative out there to understand that, understanding yourself, understanding what has made me who I am, understanding my character. By this, I mean, to simplify, your character is a collection of your habits. Yes. So what you do over and over again, people look at it and define that as your character. So understand what are some of the habits. But just to conclude, let's all have this mindset of learn, but also remember, you need to unlearn. Yeah. So again, remember I said, as Gen Zs, you're blessed to have a lot of knowledge and to have lived around knowledge, you know. So there's so much you guys know. But the question is, are you willing to unlearn what is not working?
And it's not an easy process.
It's not an easy process. So there are some habits, there are some things that we've consistently done that are not productive and they're not really pushing us to the positive. We've talked about procrastination, for example. You know, where does it come from? What is it? You know, and I joke about it when I'm coaching on procrastination, and I ask many people, and nikakwambia ukuje Uhuru Park saa 8 ya usiku nitakupea 1 million. Utakuwa wapi saa 7:30? Jiulize hiyo swali sasa. I think utakuwa hapo kwa gate ya Uhuru Park, si ndio? Hauta question ni usiku, hauta question safety, uta deal na security nini, you know, uta deal na hizo vitu zote. But utakuwa hapo. Swali ni mbona uko procrastinate?
Kwa sababu there was some incentive.
Yeah. So sometimes procrastination is what happens after you don't understand that your mind has the ability to choose what it feels interesting and what feels not interesting, right? So again, your mind can choose what feels na need hii kitu na nini na feel si need hii kitu. Yo swali ya do, of course una need do, you know. But kujiuza, kwenda free gig, kujiuza, you might procrastinate on a gig that you're just supposed to go and do for free, but for visibility purposes. Why? Because your mind is not recognizing it as value. Yeah. So what we are saying is, once you understand yourself, there's another side of it. Now, self-management. So there's self-awareness, and then there's self-management. How do I push my mind, my heart? How do I push that resilience to think of things differently? Because once you think of things differently, your subconscious mind registered as a very important thing, you know, and you'll be like, okay, hii gig silipagwi, hey, lakini mazee napata visibility mob, you know? So how do I not focus on mazee hawanilipangi and focus on wananipea platform? And I know as creatives, we've demonized that thing of, I know it's a hard conversation, but as a coach, I'll still come back to you and ask you, you know, how did you use that platform? You know, sawa, ulipata platform.
But uliongea nao fans wote.
Swali ni, ulipata platform, mi na feel nika hiyo ni opportunity kubwa, you know? But then, ulidu nini na hiyo platform? Uliprepare aje? Did you even take some time to introduce yourself as an artist on that platform for people to know you as who you really are beyond the platform, you know? So those are questions of presentability, visibility, branding, and all those conversations. We have very skilled partners in Sanara that are having masterclasses, and we've already started the masterclasses, and we can share a lot of knowledge on how to position yourself.
Thank you. That was wide, broad, and a lot of lessons that I think we all should embrace and sit with it and just feel how your heart is receiving it, and with intention, move forward. Yeah. So most of us creatives suffer with burnout and what we call creative block. Are these intertwined with emotional intelligence, and how can creatives go about it?
Burnout affects almost every human who is actively involved on a daily basis, whether it's mentally or physically. Again, on self-awareness, there are a couple of things we talk about: understanding yourself, understanding the human, the 4 components. You know, understand that you have 4 components in you. You have your body, you have your mind, you have your spirit, yeah, and you have your heart, yeah. And this heart is not the heart that beats blood; it's the heart that feels emotions, and that's why we talk about huyo mtu ni roho safi, huyo mtu ni roho ngumu, hiyo roho tumeiona aje na tuziona, you know. So hiyo roho ndio naongea about, you know. Understand how's my balance, first of all, in those four components. Am I taking care of my body?
True question. Yes.
Yeah, burnout.
Yes.
Burnout, you know, it's not only mental. It can be emotional burnout. Are you drinking water? How's your diet? You know, una chase na nini? You know. So those are questions that you have to understand, that your body should support your destiny. So whatever you intake, however you treat your body, how many hours do you sleep? You call yourself a night owl, ndio usilale. Sawa, wewe fanya kazi usiku, which is good. Sometimes your personality focuses better at night, but prioritize sleep during the day if you are actually someone who works really well at night. Also, you need to start thinking about your relationships, and that's why the heart, the fourth component was the heart. The relationships you have around you. It's a hard one because some relationships that we can't get rid of are very family, you know, and if those relationships are not good, yeah, they affect who you are. So sometimes burnout doesn't come from your work, it comes from what else you have to deal with, either emotionally at home, convincing people that I know I passed my grades, but I chose being a creative than to be a doctor. That's emotionally straining, you know, in a family that sees doctors and farmers and other people, other professions as the best, you know. Understand that. That will help you avoid creative burnout. How are you taking care of your mind? You know, your brain, you know, are you resting enough? Are you limiting your screen time? You know, and sometimes, you know, let's use knowledge that we have. Sometimes if your career involves a lot of screen time, then invest in things that can help you avoid the light, you know, or work on your posture while you're working. Sometimes we ask graphic designers, you know, please don't sit all the time. Have some low desks and high desks, you know. Stand up and do the work. It's still the same thing, and you're taking care of your body, right? But again, a sensitive part that most people don't like to talk about is your spirituality. Yeah, and most creatives understand their spirituality.
How art intertwines with spirituality.
Yeah. But again, also, you know, we have to fight the perception of spirituality with the rest of the world and how they perceive that we should think and we should be. But awareness is understanding that I have those four components, and emotional intelligence is understanding also that I need to work on myself, because at the end of the day, remember the orange and the juice.
Yes.
Yeah.
If they squeeze me, it's still my juice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we don't want to squeeze you and there's stress coming out. Yeah. We want to squeeze you and there's confidence, contentment coming out of you. You know, that, and at the end of the day, what people remember is not what you said. And you can see, you can go to concerts and sometimes you don't remember the song, but you remember something the artist said towards the end that made you feel so special or made you feel part of a very special group. Yeah. So understand that. But where does that come from? It comes from you taking care of your body. You can see, sorry to use this example, but if you're a musician and you need to perform and your body is not in shape,
you cannot dance.
You cannot dance and sing at the same time because your lungs cannot, cannot handle that pressure, you know? So understand that some of this excellence, some of this success that we are chasing as artists, as creatives, as humans, is really dependent on how we take care of ourselves, and mostly how we take care of those 4 components. So creative burnout can come from absorbing a lot of negative news from social media, and also choosing to listen to your critics so much. So, and sometimes you're always on your social medias, reading the comments and stuff. And you're forgetting, man, the guy commenting negatively is really enjoying it. You know, they are really enjoying it. In fact, after you, the next 10 minutes, they won't even remember you. They'll be jumping to the next Tanzanian artists to talk bad about them, you know? So why are you choosing to listen to what the world is saying, and you're not choosing to listen to who you are, what you are? And I think that's why we are in Sanara as Ink Coaching, to really help the creatives understand themselves and understand that beyond my art, beyond my talent, there is a human being who belongs in a society. And that society sometimes can be your breakthrough once you understand to manage those relationships.
Do you think when we go out there trying to get validation of our art, do you think it's also a cause of burnout? And because if you don't get the validation you want, you tend to feel discouraged. And how can you go about that as a creative?
How do you take feedback? Again, another skill that we have to really talk about. How do you perceive feedback? How do you ask for feedback? How do you digest feedback? You know, there are a couple of things we've trained people to do, you know, and I think you've seen really mature artists, even in the country, how they respond to critics online. Yes, they go to the comment section, but how they address the critics is not from a perspective of, no, you hate me and you don't know me. No, they go with a perspective of, I love the fact that you watched that video, you criticized it, and you gave me the feedback. Yeah? What do you think if I changed in my performance? I would really attract your heart, and you would feel as my fan, and you would feel more connected and more appreciated. And we've seen amazing comments even after. And sometimes there are no amazing comments because that guy was there for
just to bring you down.
Just to bring you down. So also don't expect it. But have an attitude of, you know, I'm good at what I do. I need to always improve on what I do. But for me to improve towards the right direction, I need to understand what the people who I'm expecting affirmation and validation from need.
Let us learn to listen to the 4: your mind, your body, your soul, and your spirit. Yeah.
And have a balance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because sometimes you're really good with your mind, but the other 3, you're not conscious about your relationships. So they come back to affect. And what we are saying as coaches is, once you recognize that the 4 are really important to you, start asking yourself, how much are you putting into balancing those 4?
And on to our last topic for today. As a leader, how would you advise other leaders with creatives on their teams to nurture the emotional intelligence and not water it down?
It's been a really sensitive conversation for the last, I would say, 5 years. Wow. Is this to the leaders or to both the leaders and the creatives?
All of them.
Okay.
Yes.
To the leaders in most corporate scenarios or setups, I would like you to understand that you're dealing with people who have a lot of knowledge, who have understood how to express themselves. Give them the space, but also teach them the ways. Yeah? And the reason I'm saying give them the space, but also teach them the ways, is because if you're given the space without learning the culture and the ways, then your talent backfires. And that's why, you know, it takes 2 to tango. There's the leader of this corporate company, maybe a manager, maybe the owner of the company, but then there's you. Again, going back to empathy. as a creative, do you want to understand that this person has worked on their business for 26 years successfully? Or do you want to just go in there and change things?
You can't.
Yeah.
No.
So I would say respect is earned. Learn how to position your greatness.
Thank you so much for joining us. And to wrap up that session, emotional intelligence is how creatives turn sensitivity into resilience and resilience into longevity. Thank you so much for having us, and I hope you learned and you're going to internalize and put into practice. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.